Hello residents of Meepletown. Today we are looking at Tang Garden, which is a giant box. In this game we are going to be taking on the role of engineers that are building up this garden, and we're going to be putting decorations, putting lots of different landscaping tiles. We're going to balance those out between the rock and the water and the greenery tiles, but we're going to have characters that are going to come out of the board and they're going to judge our garden, and so we want to make it look as beautiful as we can. But ultimately, at the end of the game, you want to be the one with the most points. So let's get to the table and check out Tang Garden. This is the setup for Tang Garden, and this is going to be player 1 over here, player 2 will be over here. And on your turn, you're only going to do one of two things. You're either going to build the garden, or you're going to place a decoration. And obviously I'll explain that as we go. Just to point out a few things, here are the garden, the different landscape, not landscape tiles, but these are the different garden tiles that you'll be placing out here a la Carcassonne. These are the landscape tiles over here that you'll be placing on the outer edge of the board, and those will happen whenever you take these landscape tokens right here. Each player has their player board. You're going to be moving up on these 3 different tracks on your board, and each player starts off with a character card, and in this case the player 2 has the Hermit card, and they start off moving up 1 on the rock track. Architect has already moved over there on their greenery track, and I think we're ready to start this thing. So to build the garden, that's the first thing that you can do. To build the garden, you will take a tile and you'll place it out there and move up on the track based on which tile you placed, and if you completed that landscaping area, again, kind of like Carcassonne if you're building a city in Carcassonne. So the first thing that I will do with player 1, the architect, is I will build the garden. Now for the architect, they're going to get points for placing different decorations, the building decorations out on the board. I'll explain that when we get there. Just know that's kind of their thing, and then they'll get points based on, at the end of the game, if their character is out there facing towards a specific landscaping area. Again, I'll get to that. But for right now, what I want to do is you want to try to get characters in this game, and the way that you do that is you're going to have to unlock the different character spots on your board, meaning that you're going to have to get all 3 of these cubes up to that first spot to be able to get a new character. And so I've already moved up in the greenery one, so I would like to probably move up on one of the other ones. You can't close one at the very beginning, so I think what I'll do is I'm just going to take this. I'll take this water tile and I'll place it right here. And what that does, obviously, if it is like Carcassonne, which it is, you have to match all the sides. And so in this one, you match up the water space right there, and you move up 1 on the water track. If I can fit those in here, I'm kind of reaching across the table a little bit this time. And that's the player 1's whole turn. Now, these piles will have face down tiles that don't get replenished until you get less than 2 piles, 1 or 0 tiles that that have tiles face down. And so right now we're not going to replenish that. It's going to be player 2's turn. Now they have a choice. They can do the same thing that player 1 did, or what they can do is they can place a decoration, which means you'll draw cards from this stack and pick one of those and place one of the decorations out on the board. Now the way that works is whenever you have these face down piles, you're going to add that to 2, and that's how many cards you can take. So in this example, I take 2 cards and then 1 card per stack that is face down, that has not a tile face up on the top. And so in this case, I'd be able to draw 3. Now for the monk, they want to, as their kind of immediate action, all the characters have actions that happen throughout the game if they're active, and this one is. And if your character is out on the board, then you'll get end game scoring conditions. So in this case for the monk, I'm going to get points for moving up on my rock track. And I just mentioned that I don't really necessarily want to do that because I want to move up on all of these. However, it's not a terrible idea to do that either. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to take this, yeah, I'll take this right here. I will place this tile right here, and that will just move me up one on the rock track. And then I will take a coin. Now, coins are going to be worth points at the end of the game, but also they have different uses throughout the game potentially. So that is going to be my turn. Now, I will, let's see, for the architect, I think what I'll do is I'm going to draw 4 cards. Because again, 2 empty piles plus 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, I only get to pick one of these, but for the architect, which let me throw that card on the table. For the architect, their benefit is they're going to get points for, they're going to get coins for building bridges and pavilions. And so that's what I'm looking for here. And wouldn't you know it, I actually drew nothing but bridges and pavilions. So I think what I'll do is take the pavilion card. I'm going to place it over here because you're going to get points for those cards that you have at the end of the game. I'll discard the other ones. And I'll build a pavilion. Now the pavilions have to be built in a rock space, and that shows on the card that that's the case. It has to be built in a rock space, and so I will build that here. And at the end of the game, I will get 12 points for having the most, 6 points for having the second most, and that is, again, my entire turn. So turns in this, you can see, are really, really fast. But I do want to get enough gameplay to kind of show you how some of this plays out. All right, now back over to player 2, the Hermit, who again wants to move up on the rock track to get points. Oh, speaking of which, the Architect gets 2 coins because he built a pavilion. That is the Architect's special ability. So it's their turn. Back over to the Hermit. Now the Hermit doesn't really want to build rocks anymore because he's just going to keep moving up on this track, although it is kind of beneficial. I don't think that's what I'm going to do, though. I think for the Hermit, what I'll do, I'm going to start trying to move up on some of the other tracks. And so the Hermit's going to take this tile. I'm going to place it right here, connecting with the greenery tile. And so I'm just going to move up 1 here, and that is going to be the entire turn. Now these will flip over, revealing new tiles. And then I'll be back over to player 1. Player 1 kind of looks around and thinks, wow, I really also would like to move up on some of those tracks, particularly probably the rock track. And looking here, they can see that there are 2 faces for the rock track that would actually close that, again, like a city in Carcassonne. So they're going to take this. And what happens here is they get 1 point for lining that side up, but they're also going to get to move up again because they're closing out that territory. So they'll move up 2 on here. Actually, excuse me, not 2. They're not going to move up 2 on there. They did face 1. They touched the face of 1 rock side, 2 rock side, and then for completing that one, that is going to be 3 rock sides. And so they'll actually be able to place, let me put this back here, move up on the track 3 times, which is really big. That's going to set them up for a while, and that will be player 1's entire turn. But that was a pretty big one. To be able to move up on that track 3 times is really nice. So now once they move up to the water and the greenery track 1 more space, they'll be able to, if they want, if they choose to, they'll be able to take another character from that stack over there. Now, now's a good time to mention, I mentioned the 2 actions that you can take. There's also some actions that you can take that don't happen right off the bat. Typically, they'll happen throughout the game, and one of those is to grab another character. If you're able to grab another character, that's kind of a secondary action you can take. Another one you can take is you can use one of these lanterns. Now these lanterns give you special abilities, like you'll be able to keep a second card of the oh goodness mama, a second card of the decorations that you put on there instead of just keeping 1, or you can pick 2 tiles of the face-up tiles that are available instead of just taking 1, or you can move your character around. I'll explain that. I haven't got there yet, but I'll get there soon enough. And then the other lantern tile allows you to go through that deck and choose your character instead of just taking one of the top 2 face-up ones. So there's less chance of luck in that condition. The other thing you can do, and this is different for a two-player game. But in a two-player game, you can spend these landscaping tokens, which we haven't gotten to yet. But if you place a tile on a landscape token, what's going to happen is you're going to take that token, and if it's a token for a large landscape tile, you're just going to take one of these large landscape tiles and place it on the outer part of the board, this backside. Or if it's a small landscape token, you'll take one of these small ones and put it out in the front row. Now, once you collect those tokens in a two-player game, you can spend 4 of those in order to flip one of these. If you had used one of your lantern tokens, to flip that token back open, allowing you to use that again. So there's a lot of interesting decisions. There's a lot of interesting decisions in this game, but some of that comes in trying to get these landscaping tokens, not just to get these out there, but also to be able to use those tokens to reuse your lanterns. All right, so back over to the second player. They're trying to do the same thing, trying to move up on these tracks. Things are a little trickier for them, but I think what they're going to do is place this tile out here. Now, I didn't mention this, the sides of these, which is the footpath. So these footpath sides, whenever they match, you're just going to get a coin. But whenever you match 2 of those, you can either choose between getting 2 coins, or you can move up on any one of these tracks that you want to. So I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to, instead of taking the 2 coins, move up on the water track, and that will be their entire turn. Back over to player 1. Now they've got some decisions to make, because they can either keep building that garden or get some of the decorations out there. And again, remember, they're, as the architect, trying to get the pavilions and bridges out there, and so that is one of their ways that they're going to build up points. So that's going to give them coins. So that's something they want to do. However, they're thinking they would really like to get characters, and so that's what they're going to focus on right now. So they'll take this tile right here, and when they place that, that's going to give them 1 up on the greenery track, and also 1 coin for the footpath that is matching there. And again, that's going to be their turn. These are going to flip back over. Now that we have less in there, now some more interesting choices for player 2. Again, they're trying to move up on the green and the blue track. So what to do? They will, let's see, might as well try to move up on this blue track, I think. And when they do that, they're also going to get a coin, so that footpath matches right there. That's going to give them a coin. And then they will move up 1 on the blue track, not 2, because they still need to close that one off. Back over to the player 1, and player 1, they want to move up on that water track, and they can't do it because of the tile that player 2 just took, which is frustrating to them. However, they can still move up on the other tracks, but I think what they're going to do is, I think they're going to place some decorations, and maybe I can explain some more of these right now. So they're going to draw 3, and the 3 that they drew a peonies. Let's see if I can show these on here. Here's a peonies here, the pavilion, and the bridge. Again, they're going to get points for the pavilions and bridges, which is probably what they're going to want to build. But just to point some of these other out. So the peonies, if you have this card, you want to match this up with the lotus cards. And you're going to see that you have to place this one in the green space when you take it. And then you're going to get to move up 1 on the blue track, which actually, that's a big benefit for them right now. And then at the end of the game, this is worth nothing by itself, but if you have a lotus card as well, then you'll get 6 points, all that's listed on here, so you're going to get 6 points. So a lot of these cards have to do with set collection or having the majority, or in the case of the bridge, it's just straight up points. But again, a lot of them are set collection, but there's interesting decisions of which ones you want to keep, because they might not just give you points for what you're getting, but also be able to move up on these different tracks. Now in this case, this is really beneficial for the architect because they drew the bridge, which allows them to move up on any track that they want, and they'll place a bridge, which is 2 points at the end of the game, but again, they're going to get 2 coins for placing bridges in pavilions. So this one is a really big one for them to draw. So they'll take a bridge, and the bridge is going to have to be placed in in a bridge spot, which at the beginning of the game, you've got one already out there. And so we'll just kind of put that there. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see these, but the tokens for these are just giant, these giant plastic and cardboard pieces that go out there. So as the game unfolds, you can imagine it looks really pretty. Also, again, because we're doing a top-down view, you can't see this, but these tiles here also add to that 3D element of the game. And I'm going to explain what those do in just a second. So they built a bridge. Doing that, they're going to get 2 coins for their ability. Just drop those over there. And then they will, again, have 2 points that they're going to get at the end of the game. Let's slide that back up there. There we go. All right, and we're going to discard these other ones. Now, what they could do is they could use one of their lanterns to keep a second card if they really wanted to. Oh, I forgot to move up on this blue spot there for placing that bridge. But they're not going to keep another card. They're just going to keep the one. All right, now let me show you how this is going to play out with how the characters work throughout the game. So, remember, I have the architect, and I now have all 3 of those cubes either on that character spot or beyond. And so I don't have to do it right now, but I can choose to get one of those, cards right now, which is what I'm going to do, get a character card. So let's see, without using my special draw whatever card that you want out of the pile, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the student, and the student will give me a coin for every greenery tile that I place on the board whenever I'm building the garden. It's also, I hope you can see that pretty well, it's also going to give me 2 points for every one of those type of tiles that I see in my line of sight. And I'll explain what that is very quickly. And so I now have a choice. So you're only going to have one active character. The other one's going to go out on the board. I am going to take this one. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the architect out on the board, and I'm going to keep the student as my active player. So I'll come over here. I'll grab the student miniature out of the box. There's these tiny miniatures for each one of the characters. I will place that student there. Now the architect card, I'm going to keep the card there, but you can't really see it, it's kind of off camera, but just know that my architect card is still there. But my architect miniature is now going to go out on the board. Now you have to place it in a spot with this symbol. So right now there's actually 4 of those symbols out here. There's one here, here, and then also you can't see it, but the pavilion has one, so you can put them inside there. Now this is where you're going to place them, and this is where the landscaping tiles are going to come into effect, especially for the architect. So now the architect, grab his card again, the architect is going to get 3 points at the end of the game for each one of these symbols that he is looking at. And so right now I'm kind of looking out at the board, and I see, okay, there's one of those symbols out on the board in this landscaping area here. So I want to face, I want to be able to face the architect in that direction. So I'm going to stick him inside here. You can't really see, so I'll tell you what, I'll just stick it right here on the bridge so you can see better. The architect's going to be facing that direction. And now what I'm going to try to do is, as I get these landscaping tokens to give me landscaping tiles, I want to take the ones with that symbol and have them in that direction so that I can get the points at the end of the game. The other benefit of where you place them, by the way, this is one type when you're looking at the landscaping tile on here. Another type is like what the student is that I just mentioned, and that gives you points for these type of tiles, the greenery tiles that are going to be in your line of sight. And so line of sight works differently a little bit than landscaping does. So landscaping is just, if you're facing that direction, you're looking at the entire landscape. With the line of sight, if I'm facing this direction, it's only those tiles that are directly in front of me. So in that case, if I had the student, I would want to place them probably right here, because there's already 2 greenery tiles right here, and those will each be worth 2 points, up to a max of 10 points at the end of the game. So that's how that works, but I didn't place my student, I just placed the architect. And I think that kind of gives you a gist of how the game plays out. Now, one thing I didn't mention is as you're moving up the track, you're going to get new characters, but there's also places to get coins. Each time you bring one of your cubes up to one of these spots on the track, let me just pull this out, although it's going to mess it up a little bit. But as you're moving up on the track, if one of your spots, if one of your cubes gets in this spot, you're just going to get 2 coins. You don't have to get all of your tokens to that to get that. And then 5 coins if you can get it all the way to the very end. So there's a big benefit of really racing up the track, even if it is just with 1 cube, although you won't be able to get your character cards as easily. And so the game is going to continue to play until there are less than 3 of these landscaping tiles out there, landscaping tokens out there. Or if one of these stacks is completely gone, that will trigger the end of the game. Then you're going to get points for a lot of different things. You'll get points for your coins that you have. You're going to get points for your characters, not your active one, but your characters that are out on the board. And you're going to get points for any of the set collections you have from the decorations that you've put out on the board. And that really is it. That's how the game plays out. It's pretty simple because turns are quick and all of that, but there is a lot going on in this game. So it is also fairly complex in that sense. So let's get to away from the table to talk about the art and components, but I'll go ahead and point some things out right now. One is, I mentioned these 3D tokens. They're the pavilions, the bridges are on there. Once you start filling out the board, it looks really cool. I like that a lot. The little miniatures, I've already showed you some of those. I did not show you any of these, but with some of the decorations, there are different type of trees that you can place out there. And all of that is just to make a beautiful board. Also maybe a little convoluted because there is a lot going on in there. There's also the bird and fish tokens and the lotus and peonies. Those are just both set collection type cards that you get as well. But anyway, I do think everything is beautiful on the board, although things can get in the way, especially the giant pavilion. If you're sitting here, sitting on this side of the table and you want to see what's on the other side, you have to maybe move that or stand up and look around there. But other than that, I think it's just a wonderful, beautiful production. That gives you the gist of the components and the art in the game. But overall, I really do enjoy it. I think maybe, I didn't say this, I guess, but it maybe potentially overproduced because not being able to see everything out on the board, but I really hesitate to say that because it is just so beautiful. It's got such an amazing table presence. The box cover, I just think is incredible. I love the look of it, just really clean. So overall, that's a positive for me, is the art and components. Now onto the gameplay. I think the gameplay is a lot of fun too. It's deceptive a little bit because as you're explaining it, as you're kind of looking at it, you think, this is a really simple game. I'm either going to take a tile and place it, or I'm going to draw cards and I'm going to keep one. That's it, which is true. That is exactly what you're doing. But the timing on how all of these things play out is pretty interesting, I think. One of the things is when you're building your garden, you want to have the most options for the tiles that are out there. But what you don't want to do is give the other player lots of options. And so as the tiles get lower, you might be thinking, okay, now's a good time to gain a card because I can get more cards, which all of that is very true. However, if all you do is focus on gaining those cards, you're not going to do very well because you still have to move up on your tracks. I think the bulk of the points that you get, well, you get points for a lot of different things like I mentioned, but you do get a bulk of your points from your character cards. Now you can get them from the set collection piece. However, if that's all you focus on, you're really going to miss out because the other thing is getting those coins as you move up the track. And so other players are going to move up the track faster than you and gain those coins. And so I think that it's deceptive because you think this is the thing that I need to do. And in fact, when John and I have played this game together, the first game that we played together, that's what John did. John thought, okay, I will completely focus on just getting these cards because they're set collection, that's the best way to get points. Well, I destroyed him because he neglected to move up on the track and get his characters out there, and so I had all of my characters out there. I may have maxed out my tracks to get all the coins that I potentially could get and just mop the floor with them. And it's not, it's not saying that to brag or anything. I'm just saying that this game can be deceptive in how it plays out. You might think this is the optimal thing to do, but that's not always the case. Now, the other side of that is if you only focus on taking those tiles and building the garden, you're really going to be missing points that you're getting from set collection. If you the pavilion gives you majority points, and so you at least have to have one pavilion so you can kind of stay in the running for that. But 12 points at the end of the game is a lot. The bridges are another great way to get points, especially if you have the character like the architect that gives you an additional 2 coins on top of the 2 points that you get. So there are a lot of things to think about in a game that's so simple. And for me, I like games like that. I like where turns are fast. You don't necessarily have a ton of things to think about, but when the game plays out, there are some thinky decisions that you have to make. Which track do I move up on? When to get characters? Which characters to get? When to use my lanterns? When to spend landscaping tokens to flip over those lanterns? So there's a ton to think about in this game, and I really like it. I like this game a lot. We talked about this on the podcast, and my score stays the same. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10, one that I'm not going to turn down. Now, the game can be, it says 45 minutes on the box. I don't think that's completely accurate. I do think it plays longer than that. But I'm okay with that because I think it is a fun game. John gave this one a 7.5 that on the podcast. He also still really enjoys this one. We just couldn't do the video together this time. But that's it for me. I give this one an 8. Really fun game. Definitely recommend checking this one out. John gives this one a 7.5. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Twitter. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Mapletown Games. You can reach out to us on our website. That's mapletowngames.com. Also, you can go to BoardGameGeek.com and go to guild number 3407 and connect with us and our community on there. So thanks for coming down to Mapletown.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at Mapletown Games and connect with us on the Mapletown Guild, guild number 3407 at BoardGameGeek.com. And also subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. And until next time, thanks for coming down to Mapletown.